Okay, I'm going to try this again. I tried this on Facebook just a few minutes ago, and I guess I'm in Facebook jail again because apparently I've said something that offends their dainty little minds. But good afternoon, my friends, and welcome to our daily edition of Removing the Liberal Blindfold for this Friday, the third day of May in the year of our Lord 2019. From Conservative Tribune comes this one. Ilhan Omar unleashes new wave of hate against white people and Republicans she calls goons. This is awesome. And this from a woman who says, we are the racist ones. Yeah, more on that one shortly. This was written by C. Douglas Golden. It feels like it's been too long since we've had an Ilhan Omar bigotry story. It's been like, what, a couple of weeks now? I almost thought that she had actually learned to pretend her opinions about the varieties of religious experience were within the normal range of human response or something. And she kind of has. She just let us all know that she doesn't particularly like another group of people for their immutable characteristics either. What's ironic is that today's story comes courtesy of a screed against bigotry, including Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and yes, she was able to keep a straight face here, and xenophobia. That, on its face, sounds plausible enough. And then she remembered she was Ilhan Omar, and instead decided to vilify both white people and goons in the Republican Party who she thinks don't like her because of her race. The irony of this was lost on her, I'm guessing. The Minnesota Democrat made the remarks at a Tuesday event organized by none other than Black Lives Matter movement titled Black Women in Defense of Ilhan Omar, according to NBC News. Now, this is a quote. The occupant in the White House, as my sister Representative Ayanna Presley likes to call him, and his allies are doing everything that they can to distance themselves and misinform the public from the monsters that they created that is terrorizing the Jewish community and the Muslim community, unquote. Now, that's what Omar said at the event, which drew just a little more than 100 supporters, if that many. In the speech, Omar laid the blame for anti-Semitic incidences like the Shabbat of Poway shooting in California directly at the feet of the president. Quote again. Because when we are talking about anti-Semitism, we must also talk about Islamophobia. It's two sides of the same coin of bigotry. Just this week, when we've had the attack in California on a synagogue, it's the same person who's accused of attempting to bomb a mosque. I can't ever speak of Islamophobia and fight for Muslims if I am not willing to fight against anti-Semitism, unquote. This event was held outdoors. I mentioned this only because was a pretty risky move from Representative Omar, given that most of the above paragraph, aside from mentioning the fact that, yes, the alleged Poway shooter was indeed both anti-Semite and an Islamophobe, was basically inviting a lightning bolt from the deity. The courting of thunderbolts, though, continued unabated as she prattled on about the president's vile attacks against her and others, noting that his demented views are not welcome here. Quote, this is not going to be a country of xenophobics. This is not going to be a country of white people. This is not going to be a country of the few. This is going to be a country of the many, unquote. And now to remove the liberal blindfold, folks. Hey, what did she say? Not just the white folks got that? She also demonized Republicans, insisting their problems with her have to do with her faith, her gender, and her melanin quotient. Quote, the thing that upsets the occupant in the White House, his goons in the Republican Party, many of our colleagues in the Democratic Party, is that they cannot stand that a refugee, a black woman, an immigrant, a Muslim shows up in Congress thinking she's equal to them, she said. Well, if she's a refugee, she has no right being in Congress in the first place. Now, let me state here, as a person of some paleness, that I cannot get offended when people fall back on the "yes, you white people" race baiting line. I understand why some people think it's acceptable, given a liberal post colonial mindset. I find it more telling and lazy than abhorrent, and I certainly don't think it's typically meant in the same pernicious manner that, say, anti Semitism is. But that's kind of the point here, isn't it? It's being spoken by a pernicious anti Semite who's apparently trying to rebrand herself so that bigot isn't the first thing that you associate with her. And how is she trying to accomplish this? By specifically attacking a group of people for their race. If this was the rollout of Ilhan Omar, who's supposedly sincerely cares about Jewish people, it may have been the occasion to steer clear of the "but do you know what I really can't stand" rhetoric. Beyond that, this is a country for whites, but as much as it's a country for African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, Middle Easterners, Jews, Christians who believe in the ideals that made this country great. Yes, I left out Muslims because they follow the Quran. They are sworn to get rid of us. It's in there. And any peaceful passages that they may tell us is in there came from early in the book, and those have been negated by later, more violent passages. I will talk on that subject of the Quran on Sunday on my show on Blog Talk Radio. Stay tuned on that one. During his unctuous demagogic candidacy announcement this last week, Joe Biden actually managed to get one thing right. America is an idea. It's not a country based on identity, much as Biden's Democrats try to make it seem that way. Inasmuch as we haven't lived up to that idea, we can't make up for it by excluding people we perceive of having benefited from bigotry, saying that this is not going to be a country of white people, and trying to make it so isn't going to erase the history of slavery or segregation. In fact, all it does is enforce the kind of mindset that created those monsters. Finally, it's also eye-rollingly pathetic for Ilhan Omar to insist that her adversaries don't like her because she's a black female Muslim who shows up in Congress thinking she's equal to them. Yes, this has nothing to do with the fact that she repeated blatantly anti-Semitic tropes about the Jews controlling American foreign policy with money or having dual loyalties to Israel. It has nothing to do with the fact that she retweeted a Jewish critic who said that she might as well call us hook-nosed after her multitude of dog whistles. Nothing to do with the fact that she refuses to take any responsibility for any of this stuff that she's done. In her mind, at least in her speeches, this is all because the Republican Party is a phalanx of racist, sexist Islamophobes who went absolutely bonkers the moment she arrived in the Capitol. Right. This would all be darkly funny here if it were not for the fact that this speech didn't just happen days after the Shabbat of Poway shooting, but actually piggybacked upon it to impugn not just President Trump, but all Republicans as being somehow complicit in it. Instead of being darkly funny, it's just another example of the darkness that lurks within the heart of Ilhan Omar. Americans should and do have it in their heart to forgive repentant bigots. But when it comes to the unrepentant, however, particularly the opportunistically unrepentant, we ought to have nothing but contempt for them, and most of us do. This description, opportunistically unrepentant, fits her to a T. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We are here to push the facts that the lying liberal lamestream media leaves out. Facts that change the story from what is right and true to what the left wants, which is never right and true anymore. If you like my updates, subscribe to them both here and on BitChute. That's BITCHUTE.com. That way you will get the truth the lamestream lying media won't touch stuff that drives liberals like Cliff and Mark insane in the brain. I haven't been here this week for the most part because I had lost my job and was searching to find another. I have done that and start my new job on Monday. I'll see you all again then, but it will be later in the afternoon or early in the evening for the rest of the week. Truth, justice, and the American way are the only things that will keep this country with a bright future. NWCR Radio will be on the air on Blog Talk Radio on Sunday from 6 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. God bless America. God bless our troops. And as always, we will not be ruled. Have a safe and blessed weekend.